Good evening everyone, hope you are well. I'm a man that listens to feedback. I appreciate a bit of feedback, and some people, mainly Charlie and Tom, always tell me I don't interact enough with the live chat, which is fair. It's only really the cup of tea series I do. So I thought, to be fair, about 3 months ago I did a breakfast show where it was a bit more interactive, and then for whatever reason I didn't continue it. So I'm going to try and do a bit more of these types of videos. So if you're in the live chat tonight, hello and welcome. I will get to you in a minute and we'll have a little chit chat. Transfer rumours first of all, let's get through them. Interestingly, tonight is just before 7 o'clock. Burnley are away to play Leicester with their first league game of the season. Played the League Cup midweek, which had no James Tarkowski. He had an injury. There's still no James Tarkowski. He's not in the Burnley squad at all. Sean Dyche has confirmed that he's got an injury and missing tonight. I think there's something in that. Not that he's injured. I think our interest in him is genuine. The latest is, and when I say the latest, I mean from people that I sort of trust, have good sources on this rather than the newspapers, is that it's not close, but our offer is there and it's sort of at a standstill. It's about 30 million plus 5 million of add-ons, and we've not really heard, I don't think we've heard back from Burnley, and I don't think Burnley are in a hurry to reply. I think they're hoping we're going to increase our bid. I think Burnley would be correct. I think we will have to try and increase it because I think we're getting a bit desperate, to be honest with you. Time's running out. The transfer window shuts 2 weeks tomorrow, Monday the 5th. It's getting there. It's a little bit of pressure. I think Moyes is going to be getting a little bit frustrated soon, a little bit restless, understandably. And I think, to be fair, I think David Sullivan will too. As much as we criticise Sullivan for not spending the money correctly, I do think he likes negotiating. I do think he likes a transfer. Maybe too much, and that's why he doesn't stay away from it. He keeps getting involved when he shouldn't do. However, I think he enjoys the real life football manager, if you like. So I still think James Tarkowski will join West Ham this window. Just a prediction. That's not like in the know stuff like that. It's just a prediction. A couple of rumours today that I've seen though that I'll bring up now. The first one's Callum Chambers, Arsenal player who can play centre back, right back, defensive midfield. He's been linked to us, which when he's fit, I quite like him. I think he's alright, but he's not fit. He's recovering from an ACL injury, which is a horrible one, isn't it? You don't even know what type of player you're going to get once that injury is, if you even get over the injury, but assuming you do, you don't know what kind of player you're going to get. So I don't even think we'd be not only loaning Callum Chambers, we'd be loaning like a risk of Callum Chambers. It seems a bit of a silly business, that one. I'm not sure there's much in that, but it sort of lines up with David Moyes' comments, which is maybe gives it a little bit of merit. Sidibe as well, he was on loan at Everton last season from Monaco. Now, by the sounds of it, Monaco are trying to loan him out again, or possibly even shift him. But our rumour is linking us to him is on loan for the season. I'm stuck on this one. I think he's really good going forward. I was impressed with him going forward for Everton last season, but defensively, you know, he got taken to Goodison Park to compete with Seamus Coleman. I think at the start of the season, I think he did. You know, I remember being at Goodison Park when he tore us apart down that side. He looked really good. We couldn't get near him. I think he was their man of the match that day. But then he just sort of, I don't want to say got found out, but he sort of struggled a little bit. His career at Everton, his season-long loan at Everton, stuttered. And Seamus Coleman ended up sort of keeping that shirt at right back. I think it would be an okay loan move. I think it would be a low-cost move that would allow us to then use the funds elsewhere in the squad. But given the form of Ryan Fredericks, I don't think he would get into the team straight away. But I don't want to be too much of a party pooper. I think Fredericks has been, let's say, the best player this season. It's only two games in, excluding the Cup. But over the 2 games, he's one that's impressed me the most. However, I'm not willing to bank on him continuing this form throughout. Going what we've seen since he arrived at the club, I think he's okay. I think he's alright as like a backup right back, as an option in the squad. But as your first choice right wing back with an academy prospect as your other option, it does make me a little bit nervous. I think Sidibe would allow us to just have, I think it would allow us to be okay. Because I was actually okay going into this season with Johnson and Ngakia and Fredericks. I thought that's options, and if one of them's out of form, it's 2 of them's out of form. It's alright, you just play the third one and continue. I think Sidibe would allow us to do something like that. I don't think Fredericks or Sidibe would hold down the place throughout the season. I think they'd be changing, as long as it doesn't hinder Ben Johnson's playtime at West Ham, because we want to see the lad get games, we want to see him kick on a little bit, and that's the only worry. But loan move makes sense. Right, before I get to the live chat, if you put your comments in the live chat, not necessarily questions, just your comments, we'll have a little proper chat. Moyes said in his press conference that there's a few bids in for some of our players. So I was intrigued to see what our team, the bench, was like against Arsenal, because I think that would have been telling. Jack Wilshere, while he has been injured, he's back in training. I have to assume that if there is bids in for players, you have to assume that Jack Wilshere is one of those players. I'll be surprised if he's here when the window closes, whether he goes to Genoa or he goes over to Galatasaray or he goes to MLS and just rip up his contract altogether. I'm not sure. I do think Jack will no longer be a West Ham player at the end of the window. Again, just a prediction, because he's not even making the bench at the moment, and it's not good enough, really. Who else would have had bids for? I'm not sure, because the only other player that was notable absence was Josh Cullen and Robert Snodgrass, really. There wasn't really any other big players missing out from that squad at Arsenal, so I'd be surprised if anyone wanted Snodgrass, and I'd be disappointed if we were actively looking to move Josh Cullen on, but I don't think they'll do that. I think the board have had their fingers burnt with Dean Garner, and I don't think, unless it was silly money, I don't think they would risk selling Josh Cullen as well this window, because that's just not going to go down as well. Right, live chat, let's have a look. Someone mentioned Semedo, who's away to Wolves. I mean, that's a fantastic signing for them. I mean, this is, I'm not going to comment on that actually, because I've got a video for tomorrow morning. I'll touch on it a little bit. Lewis says, Moyes is his own worst enemy. He got the system and lineup perfect last night, but his in-game management cost us yet again. I can't disagree with that. The one thing I will say, I know people have said that Yarmolenko was at fault for the goal, and it's hard to, I can't disagree with that, but I think he was brought on at the wrong time. You can't, when Yarmolenko come onto the field, we were no longer on top. I thought Arsenal were the better team at that point, because they were getting possession, they were putting the ball outside our box and stuff. And then, so Yarmolenko's sort of priority when he came on, his first job was going to have to be to defend. I'm sorry, I'm Yarmolenko's biggest fan. I've done that video the other day saying he had to start against Arsenal. But even as one of his biggest fans, I said in that, you cannot ask him to defend. He doesn't like it. He won't do it. He's not good enough at tracking back. So you cannot rely on him to help out defensively. And the fact that Moyes has put him on there and asked him to help out defensively makes it even a bigger error from the manager, in my opinion, because that's him sort of almost not knowing his player. It's thoroughly frustrating. I think he should have come on, if he was going to come on, he should have come on whilst we were the team that was attacking, while we were on top and had Arsenal against the ropes. That was when you bring him on, so to take advantage. He just got taken on at the wrong time, in my opinion. Gary Smither says Moyes has to find a way to get the best out of Anderson. Can't have a player of his value on the bench all season. I think he needs a fair crack, Gary. I think I agree with what you're saying. This is why sometimes it's easy to allow a manager to exclude a player, and if he doesn't want him, he doesn't want him. I understand why he's trying to shift him, but if you can't, then you've got, as a manager, you have to get the best out of your best players, if you like. One thing that grates me about those that watch this channel is I love Slav. I loved Slav. I still do love Slav. I hope he does well with West Brom. I don't think he will. I think they'll finish bottom of the league. It's a championship squad he's got. They spent money to retain the same squad they had last season. It's not good enough. But one thing irks me is when you mention Slav or the 15-16 season as a good season, when people say, oh, it was all down to Payet. And I just think, well, maybe it was, but then you've got to then credit Slav for allowing Payet to be that good, for getting the best out of Dimitri Payet. Because as a manager, part of your job is to get the best out of your best players. That's like saying, oh, Claudio Ranieri shouldn't get praise for Leicester winning the title because it was all down to Mahrez and Vardy. Well, it was, but it's down to Ranieri for getting them to play like that and finding the system to get them to play like that. I just find it baffling that we almost used Dimitri Payet as a stick against Bilic. It's like on David Moyes. I'm Moyes' biggest fan, but I'm not going to say we only stayed up in his first tenure here because Marko Arnautovic played well. Well, he did play well. That's a large part of the reason we stayed up. But Moyes got the best out of Marko Arnautovic. Moyes put him up front, made him the main focal point of his team, and got the best out of him. And Moyes should get credit for that, and I do give Moyes credit for that. I just find it a very strange thing. But Moyes has to do it again with his best players he's got in a minute, and that is Sebastian Haller and Felipe Anderson. He's alluded to it himself about how he's got two expensive, talented players on the bench, but you can't bring them on in the 88th minute and expect them to do something, because it sort of contradicts what you're saying. When you're David Moyes, you're 2-1 down, and you think, I'm going to bring on Anderson and Haller. That to me would suggest that you believe that they're game changers, that you think that they can go on and get a goal for you. So why haven't you used them earlier? And if you don't believe they're going to get a goal, why are you putting them on to try and equalise for you? It doesn't add up for me. I don't like substitution in the 88th minute. I find it quite insulting. If I was a player, I'd rather not come on the pitch, in all honesty. Toby Aldridge, thank you very much. He's popped $9.99 into the Biscuit Fund. He says, how many players do you think we need this window and what positions? Well, Moyes has said he wants a centre-back. He said a right-back and left-back, but I think he just wants a full-back and a striker. So I would insinuate he's after 3 players. He spoke about the defenders needing to be versatile, which makes sense when you've got a low budget and you can only bring in 1 or 2 defenders. You're going to need someone that can cover both flanks, perhaps. So DB can do that. I've seen him play on the left as well. But I'm getting flustered here because Tom's popped fucking money in the Biscuit Fund. I don't know why. He's going to take the money out of the Biscuit Fund as well. But Moyes has spoke about needing those players, versatile players, and I think this gives a little bit of merit to the Callum Chambers rumour, if it was to be true, because Callum Chambers can play in about 4, 5, 6 different positions, anywhere in midfield in the defence, and he'll turn up and put in a shift for him. I think he's a David Moyes type player, actually, Callum Chambers. It's just the injury thing's a bit worrying, but that's what makes them available. The back, I don't think we need a backup striker that much anymore. I would rather see us really spend the money on a left back, to be honest with you, because I don't think you need loads of players. I've never understood this big thing when you're not playing European football. I've never understood this big thing that you need to have 25 squad members. I've always found it quite excessive. When we're only playing 1 striker, I think you only need ideally 2 strikers, but I think you can get away with 1, providing you've got other players in your squad that can play that role. And we've got Yarmolenko, he plays there for Ukraine currently. Bowen's played there plenty for Hull City and scored goals, and Mikel Antonio is currently playing there for us right now and scoring goals. After Arsenal, now I'm not that bothered by a striker, because who are we going to go get that can come in and be better than Antonio? Because that's where the bar is right now. He has to be better than Antonio, because if Haller then goes back in, Antonio's essentially our second striker. So I would rather just see the money spent in defence, to be honest with you. Bear in mind, we've rumoured we've got 30 million, and well, that's it really. And I think Tarkowski is going to take all the money up, and that's what Tom put his money in to say, just to say that Tarkowski's not in the squad. You have to read something into that. I know Dyche is saying that he's injured, but I don't believe it is. Alfie Jackson says Sebastian Haller needs to start. Antonio's done well for us, but he was playing right wing back a couple of seasons ago. A waste of 45 million. I'm surprised we've not tried to sell him, to be honest with you. I don't want him sold. I'm a big Haller fan, and I actually think the way we played in the second half against Arsenal would suit him down to the ground. We were just putting crosses in after crosses after crosses. That's what Sebastian Haller loved. At Frankfurt, that's how he was he played in a 3-4-3 at Frankfurt with Kostic playing on the left, and he was a big part of Sebastian Haller. It's funny because at Frankfurt it was all about Rebic, Jovic and Haller. It was all about that. But people just ignored Kostic, and it baffled me really, because his contribution to the front three was essential. It's like Liverpool. If you praise, you can't just say it's all about Mane, Firmino and Salah. You've got to include Trent and Robertson, but for my own argument's sake here, I'm picking out just one of them, you can't not include Trent, because Trent's a massive way that front three play. If you took Robertson and Trent out of that Liverpool team and put in more conventional fullbacks, the front three wouldn't operate the same. And I found the same with Haller at Frankfurt. You can't just ignore Kostic's contribution. But if David Moyes doesn't fancy him, I don't know why he's not trying to cash in. You could still get 30, 40 million for him, and that would fund you the move for Tarkowski. Maybe we are trying to sell him behind closed doors, but we just can't get rid of him. James Gunn kindly also put £5 into Biscuit Fund. He says we need a centre back, a left back, a right back, a backup defensive midfield minimum. Philip Max went for $6 million a few months ago and can play left back. If only we had a scouting network. I'll tell you something. The more football you watch, even now, how many of us watching this stream right now, I'll be the first one to put my hand up, and I bet you there's nearly 200 of you here. I bet you all 200 will say yes. Anyone who watched the Brighton game against Chelsea or earlier, Lampetti was £3 million. 3 million. He looks unbelievable. Such a young talent, but he's an incredible player. Someone at Brighton switched on. Someone at Brighton's gone and done their homework on the under 23, spotted the talent and decided £3 million. Yeah, we're definitely having that. This is where you just get a bit frustrated, really. It's hard not to be frustrated, isn't it? We saw Wolves flexing their scouting over the summer. It's easy. I think, I know some other teams have had lots of credit. Aston Villa, for example, splashing the cash, and they've brought some good players in. I mean, I'm jealous of the Martinez deal. I think that's a fantastic signing for them. It's a bit risky because we've not seen that much of him. But if he's as good as what we've seen, 20 million is going to look like a bargain in a couple of seasons, isn't it? We've seen what Henderson was being. Henderson had a good season at Sheffield United in Premier League. I'm aware he played in the Championship as well, but we're going by Premier League for him here. But he was being tipped up at 40 to 50 million. So they've gone and got Martinez. One good season for Villa. He's all of a sudden doubled in value. But there's no scouting knowledge there, is there, at Aston Villa? They've gone after Ollie Watkins, Martinez, Traore. These are... You and I know who these players are. But how many of us knew Lampetti before Brighton went and scooped him? Some people will. I'll be honest, never heard of him until Brighton signed him up. So... Scouting saves you money. It costs a lot of money, but it saves you a lot of money as well in the long run. And I think that's our problem. We don't really want to spend the money. James Gunn saying Lampetti was bloody class. Our owners don't even know who he is. Probably not. Rory Sullivan says it's inexcusable that a Premier League club doesn't have a scouting network. God help us if we end up in the Championship. I think we'd find it easy in the Championship, Rory, in terms of transfers, because they would just go and buy like a poor Premier League side. They wouldn't go... There'd be no European players or that coming in. They would do what Sam Allardyce did when he got in Papa Bupa Diop and Kevin Nolan and all that types of players. David Moyes would go do exactly the same. He would probably get, I don't know, Jesse Lingard. If Jesse Lingard was willing to step down, he'd go after players like that and pick up one or two of the better players in the Championship and mould them together. I think he'd be alright in the Championship, but the problem is we're not there yet. We're in the Premier League and we're struggling at the minute. Mark Weir, why are we so slow at getting deals done? Should have the team you want ready for the start of the season. We need a good start, as we also have tough starts. That's one thing that is frustrating. It is thoroughly frustrating because it depends if you believe or listen to ex-West Ham employee. I like ex-West Ham employee. I know him quite well. I've spoken to him for years. I get on really well with him. And he says that David Moyes is still compiling his list of targets. He's still doing his due diligence on the potential signings as we speak. That is thoroughly concerning because during lockdown, what was he doing? Well, he's delivering fruit and veg. Maybe if he stopped delivering fruit and veg and he was actually scouting... I know you can't physically go to games, but there was loads of time during lockdown to reevaluate your squad, start thinking about who you want. These days, you don't have to attend matches. You've got all that software, what's it called, Y Scout. You've got all that kind of stuff. You can watch matches from the season and that a few clicks of a button. It's not difficult, but how we don't have a transfer list until now, I'm sure he's got some form of transfer list, but it is embarrassing how slow it is. It's difficult to stomach it as well. And the fact is, what we are now going by a Tarkowski thing, and I do believe it's all genuine. We're now putting all our eggs in one basket, and Burnley will be able to smell that we're desperate, because what's our alternative? It takes the manager and Sullivan a long time to decide which player they want to go for. We don't have time to go for player number 2 now because there's only 2 weeks left. I do think, though, David Moyes is getting off with it. I think Moyes is getting off with it. I'll get on to that in a second. If I forget, remind me if you want. I'll tell you why Moyes is getting off with it. Massive Fitness says, have you got any idea of signings that will come in? I think Tarkowski I think it'll be a case of 1 or 2 loan deals, because I think the bulk of the money will go on that. Who else it'll be, I don't know. Woodhammer 83, do you think Moyes has a free pass this season no matter what, or would the board sack him? I don't think the board will sack him, because there's what they're going to do. When they sacked Pellegrini, and they would have been sounding out managers long before they sacked Pellegrini, because we always had a feeling Pellegrini would get sacked, and then he would get a result. Chelsea away, Southampton away, he would always get this result that then bought him another 3 games. But during that few weeks, I've got no doubt that Sullivan was ringing round, seeing which managers would be interested in the job, getting the next man lined up. And the only two managers that we're aware of that come back and said, yeah, I'm up for that, is David Moyes and Chris Hughton. That was the options. And if we sat Moyes now, I'm not sure who would want to come. I think Eddie Howe would. I think Eddie Howe would want to come, and I think we would push the boat out to get him a little bit. But bear in mind, if Moyes gets sacked, we're now in the bottom 3. Okay, Moyes ain't going unless we're stuck in the bottom 3. So we are asking Eddie Howe, who's just been relegated and couldn't inspire a Bournemouth team which he had full control over, a club he had full control over, to come into West Ham where he has very little control and somehow turn the season round. I'd have no confidence in that happening with Eddie Howe. So I think Moyes is here by default, essentially. There's just no one else willing to take the job, work for this lot anymore. They've been exposed, they've been found out a little bit, haven't they, the board, and people are just a bit fed up. Ray says, would you like to see Rice and centre back and Cullen come in? No, I don't think. I think Rice is too important in that role in midfield for us. The only reason I would potentially be okay with Rice going into the back 3 and Josh Cullen coming in, is because you've got 3 centre backs, and I think if you've got 3 centre backs, I think you sort of lessen the need for a defensive midfielder. If you're playing 4 at the back, I think you need someone in there just to keep an eye, so that when your fullbacks go forward, you've got 3 players. But bear in mind, if your fullbacks go forward or your wing-backs go forward, you've still got 3 centre-backs. I think you can get away with not having a dedicated defensive midfielder in there. I'm trying to think of a team that's successful with 3 at the back and no defensive midfielder, but I can't admit it. I mean, Sheffield United play 3 at the back, but they've got Norwood that sits in there. However, they allow O'Connell and Basham to really fly from the defence. Wolves. There's my example. Wolves. Perfect. Crikey, that's the best example to use, isn't it? I've pulled this one out of the bag. We all know Wolverhampton Wanderers play 3 at the back. Their midfielders are Moutinho, Neves, Dundonker. They can all do the defensive side, but I'm not letting anyone tell me that they have a dedicated defensive midfielder. They don't. They have 3 centre-backs that don't come out of position very often, and then they have two midfielders that can do a bit of everything. They can all tackle, they can all shoot, they can all create. And so my point is, Ray, if you put Rice at the back, you can get away with no defensive midfielder. Ashley Kemp, hope he goes to Leicester. I think he is overrated. If he comes, it is just for the money. Remember that he doesn't remember what he'd done to Bowen. He's referring to Tarkowski there, or she. Can't disagree with that, really. I think Tarkowski really is coming for the money, and I don't have a problem with that, in all honesty, because it's life, isn't it? He's not. If you go for the Championship, they're going to come to West Ham for Premier League football. If you go to a European, listen, Thomas Souček, why did he come to West Ham? For money. He might have wanted to play in the Premier League, but why specifically come to West Ham? It's just for the money, isn't it? James Tarkowski, he'll be no different. But at the same time, this was the point of the move. The point of the move was to increase our revenue, increase our financial flexibility, so that with the greatest of respect to them, that we could bully Burnley, that we could bully Sheffield United, so that we can offer more wages than these clubs and attract the better players, if you like. We did it with Stoke, with Markonovic. We wanted Markonovic, said we're having him, and they said, no, you're not. Markonovic basically said, yeah, they are. I'm going to West Ham. Here's my transfer request. So money makes the world go round. Anyway, that's goal for Burnley. I've got the game in the background. Chris Wood just scored. The player we hate, but we play Leicester soon. Not been too good. I know they won against West Brom, but I think it was a fake result, if you like. James Gunn, are you excited for Wolves to dominate our midfield? I'll tell you what. I think Moyes is going to get his arse slapped by Nuno again. I think it's bad actually that they've gone and signed. How do you pronounce his name? Do you literally pronounce his name Hoover? Is that how you pronounce his name? The Wolves just signed him from Liverpool, but it's got an E instead of a second O. But I think it's Hoover. I'm going to call him Hoover. They've just signed Hoover for right wing back, which now means Traoré doesn't have to play there. So you know what's going to happen. He's not going to start Traoré against West Ham. He's going to keep him on the bench, and then on the hour mark again, he's going to put Traoré back on. And we all know what happened last time, didn't we? David Moyes. I've said this numerous times. I'm convinced by it. David Moyes is the easiest manager in the league to play against during a game because he doesn't make subs. I think he's quite easy to. Once you've worked out what Moyes is doing and you've worked out how to counter it, I think you're all right because he just doesn't change things, does he? So I find him, and I think Nuno is one of the best at changing his formation. They've only got two formations, 3-4-3 or 3-5-2. But when he switches it, they go for it, Wolves, and it's thoroughly impressive. Daniel James says we also need a striker backup, but not if we're playing Allaire. Sell him and use that money. Stevie C, money has attracted most of our current team, yet look where we are the past few years. I agree with that, Stevie, but money attracted Dimitri Payet, didn't it? Money attracted Marko Arnautovic. I don't think it's using money to attract players that's the problem. I think the most, take Jack Grealish, right? Jack Grealish has signed a new contract to Aston Villa. And I like that. I like the fact that he's signed on with his boyhood club and all this and all that. And you could say it's loyalty, but I'll tell you what, he's been well reimbursed for it, isn't he? So there'll be no questions over Jack's commitment to Villa, his loyalty to Villa, but there's definitely a financial aspect to it as well, which has made Grealish sign on for 5 years. It's not necessarily buying players that want to come for the money, it's buying the wrong players, isn't it? I'm trying to think, like Souček, for example. I'll struggle to believe that he didn't come for money, but there's nothing wrong with his attitude or his commitment, is there? It's just buying the right. It's the balance, isn't it? For Sheezy, great show, Gio. Thank you, for. I'm not very used to this actually, but I'm doing my best. Would you like to sign? Who would you sign as a backup striker? I don't know. I wouldn't splash the cash on it, but if you were to be ambitious, the one player I liked, I was a bit disappointed that move last summer that we didn't go for was Alexander Isak that went to Real Sociedad. If we could get him, for someone like that, someone that's got a bit of potential, someone that's exciting for 20 million, 30 million, but we don't have any money. And this is why I've kind of gone off wanting a backup striker, because if we are only playing around with 10 million at the most, which I'd be surprised if we've got that much, the options are a bit slim, aren't you? I mean, we're not going to be getting much player for that sort of thing. We tried it with Ajeti, it didn't work out. But the problem is our manager won't play him unless he knows him. So to get a backup striker for little money, it's a punt. It's probably a European player. I'm not convinced David Moyes is a manager to work with those types of signings. I think he wants signings that he knows, that he's watched numerous times himself. And that's okay in an ideal world, but we don't live in an ideal world. We're living in a skint world. James Gunn, Daka from Salzburg. Yeah, I've seen a lot about him. There's a lot of hype, isn't there, about him at the minute. But we're not going to get him, are we? I can't. Thunder and Joy. Why would you try and get the best out of Allaire and Anderson when it's clear Moyes don't trust him? I think that's true. I think Moyes doesn't trust them. But the problem is, Thunder, if he's stuck with them, you can't have just 12, 13 players you trust. You've got to find a way of trusting every single member in that team. Otherwise, you're in trouble, aren't you? If you just ignore players because you don't trust them, then what are you going to do? Get rid of them. You have to move them on. And I know it's easier said than done because certain players might not want the players you're trying to shift. But you've got to work with it. As a manager, you have to back yourself to get the best out of all your players. You just have to. And listen, I think there's maybe issues with Anderson's confidence. I've not heard anything, and I mean I've not heard a thing to suggest there's issues with his professionalism or his commitment to West Ham. So it's not him that's the problem up here. It's just his confidence. He just needs his arm, someone to get his arm around him to get playing football away, to get the best out of him. I don't think Moyes has given either of those two players a fair crack yet. We shall wait and see. Tom Bull, would you play 3 at the back regularly or only against certain opponents? It's difficult, Tom, isn't it? Because I'm not a big fan of 3 at the back, but I do think 3 at the back is probably the best formation for our record signing, but I don't think it's the best formation for, I don't know, Mark Noble, I guess. Where would you put Mark Noble? Not in one of those 10 positions, I hope. And I don't think he's just not got the legs to play in beside Rice in there. Where would you play Robert Snodgrass in that formation? I'm not sure there's spaces for either of those two. I agree with the depends on the opposition kind of thing, but then my counter question to you would be name someone that you play 4 at the back with, not 3, because I can make an argument for playing 4 at the back against anyone, and I could also make an argument for playing 3 at the back against anyone. It'd be nice to be able to chop and change. It is a bit frustrating though when you sort of sit here on the fan channel and think, I think Moyes will do this at the weekend, and usually you're not that far off it, and it's just a bit predictable. But every manager's like that. Leicester tonight has got the same team as last week. Sean Dyche will have known Leicester were going to do this tonight. Likewise, Burnley are playing 4-4-2 tonight. Most teams are predictable now. It's just about what you're going to do about it, and I think some teams come up with a better answer than we do to that question. But crikey, I've been doing this for half an hour. Time goes quick, don't it? Maybe not for you. Maybe not for you guys. Right, I'll do another 5-10 minutes because I'm enjoying it. I'm getting into the swing of it. Drop a like on the video if you're here. Though you haven't subscribed to the channel already, then please do so. The Wrestling Channel says Isaac would be a great buy. Augustinson would be a great shout for left back from Birmingham. I don't know much about him, to be honest with you. Although I did watch a lot of Bundesliga. Christian said, do you think Masuaku is good enough to not make left wing back a priority? Possibly, but then we're stuck, aren't we? If we don't buy a left back this summer, I think we're stuck playing this 3 at the back thing, because I don't think Creswell nor Masuaku are good enough to play left back. So I do think you need to get someone in that allows you to then have the ability to play a 4 at the back, if you like. I think one good performance from Masuaku shouldn't take away the fact that this left back's been an issue for 2 seasons, maybe. It's not just crept up on us. This has been here for a while, and I think if we don't sort it out this summer, I do think it's going to come back to haunt us a little bit, relatively quick. But our back 3, while it's a good formation at the minute, we're probably 1 injury away from it not working, aren't we? Pardon me. If we get Tarkowski, it's a bit different. But can you imagine Ogbonna gets injured? Would you fancy a back 3 of Creswell, Diop and Balbuena? I'm not sure I would, to be honest with you. So it's a little bit, it's a bit ropey. Tom says he doesn't like 3 at the back either, but it worked as we matched up against Arsenal. I think that's true. I think that's a fair point. Went toe to toe to them. That's why I think we'll stick with 3 at the back for Wolves, because Wolves play 3-4-3, so we're going to be doing we'll be matching up with them as well. Eric says Robin Quasson from Mainz would be a backup striker. He looked good. He can also play in the wide of a front 3 as well, so I'm not against him. Did Villa get that deal done for Rakisha? I know they were looking at getting him in from Germany as well, but I'm not sure if that deal went through. I thought he seemed to have a lot of momentum, that rumour, didn't it? But now they've got Traore, I guess they might... Oh, Leicester have just scored. It's 1-1. Harvey Barnes. I like him. I like Harvey Barnes. Very underrated. Snazzy, if Cullen scores a hat-trick and gets 4 assists on Tuesday, will he make the squad for Wolves? No, he'll get sold. Sullivan will be rubbing his hands if that happens. I think he'll be off skis. James Gunn likes Malin from PSV too. We were looking at him, James, a year ago when we signed a Jetty, actually. It was between Malin and a Jetty, and we went for a Jetty because it was cheaper. We all know how that ended, didn't we? You buy cheap, you buy twice. Dev asking, can we check someone on YouTube? No. I don't know if that's your channel or what, but no. Massive Fitness says, who else will we sell? Seeing as we can only name 5 subs, players like Snodgrass are hardly going to get into the match squad. Currently have Anderson, Lanzini, Allaire, Yarmolenko. No room for signings. That's a fair point. I do think it's probably a one-out, one-in policy at the minute. I think the squad size is okay, actually, because we do have 2 left-backs. We do have 2 right-backs. We could probably do with another centre midfielder and a backup striker, like we said, but I'm all for using Yarmolenko, Antonio and Bowen as the backup striker. But I think we're at the stage of their careers, though, where Snodgrass can and will accept not being involved that much. But it'll probably help him as well in the long run that he's not being called upon too often. It'll prolong his fitness and possibly his career as well. Nick Knack, I like that name. Nick Knack, if you could sign a realistic player, who'd it be? I really want, prior to him signing a new deal, this was going back to like before post-lockdown started, so during lockdown, when I got that question, I would always say James Ward-Prowse. I think James Ward-Prowse is very underrated in the Premier League, but he's got the captain's armband now. He's signed a new 5-year deal, so that's become unrealistic. I'll keep that because, long story short, when we do a cup of tea, we often get asked who we would go for if Declan Rice was to leave, and I've got my name. But I might do a video specifically about this one player when Declan leaves. But the video tomorrow morning is on Declan Rice, so we'll do that one. Hammersmith, we should go for Switzerland. Celtic's Swiss striker and West Brom's new winger, getting in with Jay. Diangana did do well. He looked good. I know it's his goal. He got his goal, but he just generally looked quite good as well. But if Moyes has always been planning 3 at the back, if he's always planned 3 at the back, and I think it gives the Tarkowski bid merit. If he's going to spend massive money on a centre back and go switch to 3 there for the season, I can understand it a bit more, because your left back gets a bit better by switching formation without buying anyone. Your right back's probably got a little bit better without buying anyone, just by switching formation. So Tarkowski allows those 2 players to improve a little bit. That's why I was impressed by Newcastle's signings when they brought in Ryan Fraser. Not just Ryan Fraser the player, but allowed St Maximum to get off the wing and have a free role. Buying Callum Wilson allows Joelinton to move out to the wing in what is, I think, his best position. I think Tarkowski does that. It allows us to have better players using the players we've already got, if that makes sense. But Tom, stop commenting in the live chat. You put me off when you come up. I think there's like spamming or something going on. I'm like, who's causing grief here? But I can't remember what I was saying now. But that's why I think buying Tarkowski makes us better, and I think we will probably stick with 3 at the back now for the rest of the season. Tom saying, can we all ask Gio to get the Hammers Chat Vaz a thing? No, we are not making the Vaz a thing. Danny24, do you know if there's been any new Benrahma news? I have seen some fans saying we should get him for the first time in a while. I think Palace are going after him, to be honest with you, Danny. I think they loaned, or they sold I don't know how you pronounce it. Is it Sorloth? Is that how you pronounce it? They bought him a couple of years ago, and I thought he looked alright in pre-season. And I think he got injured. He's had a couple of loans to Vals. Anyway, he's away to Leipzig for, it's like something silly, like 25 million. I think Palace get half of that money. So Palace are now away to scoop nearly £15 million for a player that wasn't involved last season. I think they're using that money and topping it up. I think they're going after Benrahma themselves. I can't see us getting him, to be honest with you, Danny. Oh, the Dean Garner thing. Sorry. Now that's jogged my memory before Tom put me off. If we are going to 3 at the back, which I think we are potentially with this Tarkowski bid, I understand why Moyes has sold Dean Garner. Listen, I didn't want Dean Garner to go. I think it was a mistake selling him. However, if we play this formation we saw against Arsenal, there's no room for a left winger. We could possibly have allowed him to play in the role that Fornals was playing, maybe. But again, I would understand why Moyes has looked at it and thought, well, I don't know if he can do that role. He's been playing as a conventional left winger. I'm not sure he can play sort of as a number 10 almost. Therefore, I'll cash in on the 80 million, go get Tarkowski, and I can switch my formation. Anyway, I'm going to start wrapping this up because I've been rambling on for 40 minutes. I can only apologise for the length of it. And I've had a nice comment here to finish on. Jazza says, hey Gio, it's nice to see you doing one of these for once. I'm doing my best, Jazza. Tom and Charlie bullied me into doing it. I I'm going to try doing them more often, so bear with me. But we're also, do you remember Talk West Ham? The old school Hammers Chat people, you'll remember Talk West Ham, where it's a call-in show. And long story short, the software we use, because I've switched to an Apple computer, there's a bit called Audio Desktop which Apple doesn't allow. Therefore, you can only get 2 people on the show. That's why we've not had any guests on the previews recently. So I mean, it's nice and quick and fancy and all that, but it doesn't allow us to do the basic thing, which is frustrating. So we're getting a new software, the same one that everyone else uses. Everyone uses StreamYard. You know, West Ham Fan TV, the Three Hammers, Campbell Army TV. They've been using StreamYard. We're getting StreamYard as well to go with the software we currently use, so that we can bring Talk West Ham back. So it'll be myself and Gonzo, or if Gonzo disappears, there might be someone else. And then people can call in and chat about whatever they want to do with West Ham. Like I said, we've done it ages ago. I really enjoyed it, and it's to give people a chance to interact. And when we're between guests, we just allow the live chat to put their comments up, and we read them out. It's your show. Me and Gonzo don't tend to give opinions. We just extract your opinion from you. So we've got that coming back next week or the week before. And when I do more of these shows, I might have a guest on now and again. I might try and get someone for the next time I do one, just to spice it up a little bit. Have a little chit chat about West Ham. Anyway, I'm going to go now. I'm definitely going. I can see now why Gonzo struggles to leave sometimes. It's easier to keep going. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Just to make me feel better, to be honest with you. It might make me smile. Subscribe if you're new around here, and I shall catch you tomorrow morning. I've got a video about Declan Rice, so come back tomorrow and watch it. That'll make me happy as well. Ta-da!